Welcome to our little corner of campus. I'm your host, Kendall Morang, and today I'm joined by Eric Collins, GHC Floyd Campus Director and Community Engagement Manager, and Kevin Morang, former Rome police officer and current teacher. And they're here to talk about mental momentum. So when we say mental momentum, what does that exactly mean?
So mental momentum is just as we get into something, you can kind of get stuck or bogged down in something. And how do we move forward? How do we see that as not place where I've really got stuck, but how are we continuing that progress and still seeing that as not a failure, but hey, this is where I've gotten to. I think that's a really important aspect of not overjudging yourself, giving yourself a little bit of grace, but being able to move past it, being able to see the bigger picture as a bigger picture, and not being bogged down in the minutia of the details.
Yeah, I really like that what you said, Kevin. And I would also add to that, I think about momentum as a snowball effect. Mm-hmm. So you start with one flake and then another flake and another flake, and it builds. And as it rolls down the hill, it builds momentum and it keeps rolling. And I think that as we talk about that today, we'll show the students and also staff and faculty, if they're listening as well, how to get unstuck.
Unstuck, absolutely.
If you will, and to keep that momentum rolling. So,
because in a long semester, it's a marathon. We've heard statements like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? How do you climb Everest one step at a time? And it's really easy to see, I've got this whole semester. I've got 3 classes. I've got 4 classes. I got 5 classes. I've got all these assignments or whatever else. And just be bogged down like, I'm never going to finish this. It's easy to not be able to see, and again, another cliche, not be able to see the forest for the trees. But momentum can really stall out when we're only looking at the big picture. When we break it down in bite-sized pieces and we go, hey, I've got this thing to do, I've got that thing to do, it makes it so much more attackable. And it doesn't steal your momentum.
Correct. So let me ask you this. How does momentum start?
That's a great question. Part of momentum, I think, starts with desire and a little bit of stick-to-itiveness. I think it really starts with where I'm at. Where do I want to go after this?
Yeah.
I loved when we were talking the other day, you talked about the Pomodoro method of 25 minutes on, 5-minute break. After 3 sessions of that, you can give yourself a break. We get so bogged down in, hey, I got to spend 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours of doing this task, this paper. I've got a 10-hour paper ahead of me. And if we try to use that full 10 hours, we're really going to have our energy zapped. You're going to be robbed of it. But I've only got 25 minutes. I'm going to be after it for 25 minutes. Right. And then I'm going to give myself a break. And I'm going to give myself that 5-minute reset, that basically re-energization.
Yeah, I really love that. And you said, but when I asked you that question, where does momentum start? You said desire. And on the way in here today, I passed a student and started talking to her. And she was telling me that she was having a really rough time coming to school today, coming to campus today. And I said, well, what's going on? And she said, well, I'm just tired. Like I've had a rough week or whatever. And so I said, well, what got you here? And she said, because of the process of getting to where I really want to be later on. And so I said, if I'm listening to you right, you said stacking days helps you because at the end, you're going to get what you desire. And so her momentum has already began, but she's hit a point where it's kind of like, do I really want to go today or do I not really want to go today? And she was very honest with me and said, I wanted to stay asleep and come, just not come and lay in the bed. And it was raining a little bit outside.
Absolutely.
So I think when you say momentum starts with desire, I agree with you on that. But I also say that, can that desire keep you going?
Great point.
Can that desire keep you going? So even with the Pomodoro method, right? Am I saying that right?
I believe so, yeah.
Pomodoro method. I think that being able to, when I think about the Pomodoro method, I think of breaking it down into chunks. And I had a mentor, Jack Canfield, who said that every goal you can break down into chunks. If you try to eat the whole thing at one time, it's overwhelming. But if you can break it down to small, minute chunks that you can see yourself have success, then you'll start to see yourself have more success over and over again, which is momentum, right?
Absolutely.
It's that snowball effect that if I get this, then I can go get this. Then if I get that, I can go get that. But let's be honest. It's not gonna go that way.
No.
success is never a straight line. It's
No.
going to be an up. It's going to be a down. It may be even further down where people hit rock bottom, right? And then
Absolutely.
they have to come back up. So what do you think, where have you seen that in your life, especially as a former police officer? You've seen people at rock bottom, and I'm sure you've seen people that have brought themselves back. So
Sure.
how have you seen that, and how can that relate to students?
Well, before I answer that, I absolutely want to get back to that in just a second.
Yeah.
But something you said a minute ago really hit me. And you said, talk about the process.
Yeah.
Anything that we build a habit in
That's
becomes easier to do. I've got a friend of mine who works across the state over in Athens, and he gets up every morning at 4 a.m. He has a power waffle with peanut butter on it, and he hits the gym, and he's at the gym for 2 hours. Now, holds multiple world records, and I was talking to him. I was like, how do you do that every morning? I can't get up at 4 a.m. Are you kidding me? He says, because I've done it so long.
Wow.
And because the power of repetition, the power of going, like your student said, I've kept coming, I've kept coming, I've kept coming. And so often that momentum is what we dwell on, what we choose to think about is easier to keep that moment, because that's what momentum is.
Yes.
I have this speed behind me. It's the speed that I've built up, and it carries me through that process.
Wow.
Momentum is speed with direction, right?
That's good.
And so where I choose to focus my mind, where I'm looking forward to in the future, so many times what we think about is what we do. Just as a very quick example, I don't say or a lot. And right before we started this podcast, I was told to keep and to a minimum. And what did I start off with in the first couple of sentences? Why? Because that's what I was focused on. If I'm focused on something, it's that much harder to not do it. Or it's that much harder or that much easier to do it, depending on which way it is, right? If you're trying to avoid something and I focus on what I'm trying to avoid, it's going to naturally happen. If I'm trying to work towards something and I focus on what I'm trying to work towards, that's naturally going to become the process to where I head to. So we talk a lot about, instead of looking at the negative, look at the positive. I can't get a 0 on this. How about I can get a 100 on this, or I can get a 90 on this.
Right.
What I can do is finish this by Friday. Well, I can't finish it by Monday. Cool. Can you finish it by Friday? Can you finish it by Thursday? Instead of looking at the negative, look at the positive. And I think that's what momentum does.
No, I agree with that. And it's our brain doesn't compute, can't know, right? And I love what you said about that. And because there's a quote that says where your thought goes, energy flows, right?
Right.
Wherever you're thinking, that's where all of your energy is going to go. And if I hear you correctly, it sounds like you're saying momentum is consistency.
Absolutely.
Being consistent, and it forms a habit, as you said earlier, right? So the more that I can get into a habit of doing things, the more momentum builds up. And you were saying that, the thought process of saying no or not, or don't think about that, right? Saying can't. Let's do a quick process or exercise with our listeners right quick.
Okay.
I'm going to tell them, don't think about the Statue of Liberty. Don't think about the Statue of Liberty.
Right. And now I'm thinking about the Statue of Liberty.
Now you're
Exactly
thinking about
correct.
So to your point, when you tell yourself don't do something,
Right.
that's the first thing you're going to do.
Exactly.
Is go straight to that. So
I love that.
yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
So as a student who struggles with momentum and keeping that momentum up, what are some ways that I can keep that momentum up?
So I think one of the things that we talked about the other day is you first have to know what is the priority, and list making, right? I got to know, because especially when you jump into college for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get this syllabus at the beginning of a class, and you're like, I've got all these assignments and what's going on. And I may have an assignment with a due date this Thursday, but it's just a little 20-minute discussion post, and it's not going to take me any time. And it's on my favorite subject that's really I'm not even going to have to do any research on. I could probably spin that right off the top of my head. But it's my first due date. So in my head, hey, this is probably a priority. 2 weeks from now, I have a research paper due, and this is going to take, formulation of what's my thought, research into what's going on, compiling all of my resources, reading them, getting a thesis, doing all this stuff. Obviously, that's a much more involved project. So when I start this Monday on what do I need to do for this week, and Thursday is my first due date, but it's a 20-minute discussion post, is that really my priority right now? Probably not, especially because as we get tired, the harder things become harder to do. The easier things can kind of fill in the cracks a little bit. I can jump in and do this. easily and quickly knock this out, but the harder things are hard, and they're hard to get motivated on.
Right.
I've sat there plenty of times on my computer screen going, I really don't want to do this. Let me just pull up YouTube and watch some YouTube for a little while.
Which is easy, right?
It's so easy. You spin down that spiral. So I've got to come in the beginning of the morning and I've got to make a list. And sometimes the list has stuff on it from yesterday, and sometimes it's got stuff on it that's not going to get done today. But if I don't write it down on a list, my mind's constantly going to be thinking about it, like we talked about earlier. Don't think about this. Don't think that's the first thing I'm going to think about.
That's right.
Instead of actually paying attention to what I need to be working on. So making that list, prioritizing what needs to be done first. And it's not always, again, like we said, the first due date. It may not even be the biggest project, because maybe the biggest project isn't due for 3 months. But I need to get it on paper so that I can say, hey, this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3. And then also there's something about with our mind, we see stuff checked off and we feel I've accomplished something.
Right.
And there's a day where sometimes I don't need to write research paper, because research paper is a 10-hour thing.
Yes.
I know I can't do that. Find 2 sources. The next day, find 2 sources.
There you go.
Come up with my thesis.
Yes.
Come up with my thesis, something like that. So break it down into bite-sized chunks.
Yes.
And that way I can feel like I'm checking stuff off, a feeling of accomplishment.
There you go.
Just helps with that momentum. And then just remember, there's no such thing as multitasking. We talk about I'm going to work on this. You can't. It's physically impossible. Now, what we can get really good at is switching back and forth between topics rapidly. I can pay attention to this and this and this and this and this, not at the same time, but really quickly succession. The problem is that kills my momentum, because I'm not staying on task.
Yes.
And so staying on one task, seeing it through to completion, and again, not the completion of the whole task, but of this part of the task, the 25-minute block that I've chose to focus on, that will flow you through your list much, much better than instead of trying to, air quote, multitask, because we can't do that.
And I love the list and breaking it down into chunk sizes. And I would say this to any student listening: have grace with yourself.
Absolutely.
You're not going to do everything perfect. You're going to make mistakes. And I always relate it back to sports. Like, no one's ever played a perfect game.
Never.
You're not going to be the perfect student, right? So you're going to have different things that come up in your life. Life's going to happen. As I don't know if this is still a quote, life's lifing right now, right?
Absolutely.
But that's going to happen, and things are going to happen for you. Especially at GHC, we have students that work, right? And so you have other things that are going on in your life, and it's just not being a student. You're a mom, you may be a father, you may be all other things. So I would say having grace with yourself and knowing that everything is not going to work perfect. Even if you make the list, you may not get everything hit that day. So have grace with yourself to know that, hey, there's another day, I can do it again. That would be my biggest encouragement along with the list.
I love that. Having grace with yourself is so important. Making sure, hey, I got 2 things crossed off this list.
Right.
We teach a class on leadership, and there's a particular clip that we do of this guy. And I'm not going to, I can't remember his name, so I'm not going to try to butcher it, but he does a wonderful podcast on Make 5 List. He makes a list every morning of 5 things he's going to do. Work-wise. And when he's done with those 5, and he said it may be simple. It may be send an email.
Right.
But when he's done with those 5 things, he's done.
I love it.
He's done for the day.
I love it.
Anything else is what he chooses to do for the day. I have taken that and put that into my life a little bit, and I have seen such progress with that. I am some days good at it, some days not good at it. But when I do it, I definitely see the progress and just day to day. And you go back and look and say, how many days? And he puts a P at the top if he passes, and you look back through that book. And he just keeps a little spiral-bound notebook, keeps it in his pocket, and then he can go back and see that success. And you're talking about momentum. I was successful yesterday. I was successful the day before. I was successful the day before. I missed that day. I missed 2-3 days last week, but man, I got 5 of my 7 days last week, or I got 4 of my 7 days last week. And how big is that to get that little win inside yourself?
That's huge. And as a coach and as a, going back to sports and relating this to sports, you just want to execute, right? You have it down. You just want to execute, and execution builds momentum. So the more, like you're saying, the more that I execute on some things and seeing those check marks, that's the more momentum I'm going to build.
Absolutely.
Over and over and over again. So consistency, going back to consistency, I think that's what mental momentum is building consistency in your life, and not beating yourself up if it doesn't happen the way you want it to happen.
As a second-year college student who also works, I hold a pretty big position in my job, and I can get very overwhelmed with the amount of schoolwork that I have and amount of work that I have within the job. Um, I know something that I find helpful is putting everything into a calendar. I have my calendar on my computer, on my phone, but I also have a paper planner that I carry around with me because writing it down helps me remember, hey, this is due this Friday, all of that kind of stuff. Do y'all have any other hints, tricks, things like that for any of our listeners?
Well, I haven't mastered the calendar thing yet. I still need to do that. I would say, especially in today's age, using apps, right? There's apps that help you stay organized. I know one of the things that I do is use the calendar, of course, that you have with your emails. I need to get better at writing things down. And I always still try to remember things, but that doesn't happen all the time. But I would say the app has helped me out a lot. Using Reminder,
Right.
Using notes on my phone. Is there anything that you do in particular that helps you when you're overwhelmed?
Yes, I have to have Google Calendar. I absolutely have to have it. If I don't have it, it's not going to go well. My secretary does a great job of she'll start an email that says, to Kevin, and it'll have all the list of questions. And it's not going to go to me. She's never going to send it, but it's saved over there that when she gets a chance to have a sit down with me, we haven't forgotten all the things. I have a pad that sits on my desk that when I know, hey, I've got to go to the manager's meeting, I'm going to write all these things down. And I've had to do that recently because I'm with you. I used to have a really sharp memory. I didn't have problems. The older I'm getting, or just the more responsibilities I'm getting and all the things, my brain is filling up the capacity for, I've got 400 things. Sometimes I feel like I'm juggling chainsaws that are on fire and trying to remember the 4,000 different things I've got to remember. I get into a meeting, I'm going, guys, I had something. What was it? I don't remember. It was lost. Write it down. Write it down. For me, I'm with you, Kendall. I've got to have paper and pencil, but I know that not everybody's like that. So please find something that works for you. Like, we all have different ways of learning. We have students that don't care to use paper and pencil. That's not their thing. They can't because they got to think about how to spell, or they're not used to writing like that, or to try to keep it neat. They have to put more brain power into how to write than they do type. Type for them is easy. That's what they grew up doing. And so maybe they're keeping all their notes on their computer. Maybe you're keeping it on your voice notes on your phone. We have a lot of stuff on our phones now that are capable of helping us do so much things. And I think our phones do steal a lot of our time. We get very easy to play a game or get YouTube or whatever else. But don't forget, this can also be a thing that helps you. True. So whether it's a voice note, whether it's setting reminders, I do that all the time. If I know I've got to call somebody tomorrow, I'll set a reminder. Hey, for me, it's Google. Some of y'all are Siri, whatever phone you have, whatever app. Hey, Siri, set a reminder to call Eric tomorrow. Hey, Siri, set a reminder. I've got a podcast at 9:30 in the morning. Whatever that is, use those technologies, use that stuff to help you. There's a lot of great products out there that they're making new ones every day.
That's true.
It's crazy.
That's true.
So as a student who I can get very overwhelmed looking at, oh my goodness, I have 4 more years left of college to graduate with this bachelor's degree. I know y'all were at this point at some point in your life.
Yep.
What helped y'all? Y'all are both in high power positions at the moment. Eric running all of Floyd campus, and Kevin, you
work for the state.
Work for the state.
Yeah.
What was something that helped y'all get to those points of power, that just helped you keep going when it felt like you couldn't, like it was never going to end?
For me, it's don't focus on the end. Yeah. I focus on the process. You said that earlier, something about focus on the process, not on. I didn't have a goal. I didn't have a goal, and I had goals. Let me back up. I don't want that to sound that's incorrect. I did not have the goal to have the position that I currently hold.
Yes.
I had a goal to get better. I had a goal to work hard. I had a goal to do small things along the way, and the small goals. And as you complete those goals, you get new goals. Yeah. So I never sat at the beginning of this journey going, oh, this is a position that I want to hold one day in management for the state. And literally at this point, I have worked the entire state. I've moved all over the state doing a very similar job. I never had that as a goal.
Right.
It's something that became a reality as I worked hard, as I got through the stuff. But it was focusing on smaller goals. When we run with cadets, we don't tell them, hey, we're going to run 2 miles. And I said, run to that tree.
Right.
Once you get to that tree, now I'm going to run. I can't run another step. Yeah,
That's
you can.
good.
You can run 5 more steps.
Yeah.
5 more steps. And then when I get to the 5 more steps, okay, I need 5 more steps. Yeah. Okay, I'm not focused on 4 years from now. I'm focused on this semester.
The process.
I'm focused on this class.
Right.
And
that's good.
As I sit here at 42, 41. I'm almost 42. I'll be 42 in a couple weeks. As I sit here at 41 currently, I have wished a lot of my life away. Going, I can't wait till I graduate this, or I can't wait till I hit this milestone, or I can't wait till I hit this milestone. Enjoy the day.
Yeah.
Enjoy the day.
That's really good. And as I've gotten older, same thing, right? Living in the moment, being in the moment. And I would add, I love the individualized part that Kevin brought up, but I would add the community part.
Yes.
That has helped me get to where I am. And this wasn't my goal at all to be where I am today. This was never on my radar. What was on my radar was being commissioner of the NBA. Right.
Oh, wow.
Right. I wanted
that is a very different path.
It's a lot of a huge U-turn, right? But one of the things that has helped me with leadership and also just being a part of the community is having my own community, my inner community, my wife, my son, my parents, but also mentors that are ahead of where I want to be.
Right.
Not necessarily in a position, but they're ahead of where I want to be in their mental capacity and how they lead, and watching them and gleaning things from them. That has been the biggest thing for me. And that has helped me get to where I am today, is having mentors around me and people around me. It's a quote that says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Absolutely.
So you want to be around people that are smarter than you, that are doing better than you, have more money than you, because then it's like osmosis, right? You're just going to absorb what they have.
Right. I've never been the smartest in the room. I guess I'm always in the right room.
I love what you said though. That's huge. Having somebody that you can learn from.
Yeah.
We actually see that principle, in the Bible, where it talks about having one person ahead,
Yes.
having one person even with you,
Yes.
and then having one person that you're bringing along.
Right.
And I think that's a huge step as
Yes.
well, is having something, because I never knew a subject as well until I taught it.
That's true.
And there's a lot of psychology, there's a lot of science behind it. You get into Bloom's taxonomy and the highest levels of learning and all that stuff, and we won't jump into that because that's not what this podcast is about. But it keeps me sharp to have to explain it to someone else, to bring someone else along. Kendall, I think you've said some things in the past about when you're tutoring somebody else in math, you have to learn math better because you have to explain it. I can't just know it for myself.
Right.
I have to explain it to that other person, and so I know it better. And so I think that having somebody that I am learning from, that I am growing from, but having somebody also that I am teaching and bringing along, is huge.
It's huge.
It's so important. Number one, for purpose, for drive. Yes. It makes you feel like you've accomplished something. And then it also just doesn't keep you in a mindset of people owe me stuff.
Right.
I have learned, like, the reason I have the job that I have now, I started in law enforcement when I was 22 years old. I tried to start when I was 21, just the hiring process. I actually was in the hiring process at 21. I didn't get hired until I was 22. And I have to be honest, I had no business in that job for the first 2 years I was there. I didn't. I was too immature. I was arrogant. I just didn't make a good police officer for at least a year and a half. And the reason I got to where I got was because there were people that cared enough to pour into me. And they were around me. And so when I went to that next stage after 10 years at Rome, it was all about how do I give back to those people that made me who I am?
Yes.
How do I pour into the next generation? How do I take that and pay it forward? Because I owe a lot to the people that got me where I am.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And going back to what you said about teaching, right? The greatest way to learn something is to teach it.
Absolutely.
You're gonna learn a lot by teaching it. And then I'll also say this. There's a quote that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Right.
So a lot of things that as a student that you're going through, you're going to have teachers in your life, so to speak, right? Not just your professor, but other people that will teach you things. It's amazing that, when you're going through something, I guess I'll speak for me personally. When I've been dealing with things in life, I will see something, or I will run into a person or someone that will show me how to get through a situation. So that's showing me that I'm the student and the teacher is appearing, And I'm like, oh, well, I'm dealing with that same situation right now. How did you get through it? And just being curious. I think we talked about that as well.
Yep.
One of the things that has helped me is just being curious about people.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story. Everybody has something behind why they are who they are or why they are where they are. And just listening to that and how can I apply it to my life? How can I apply what Kevin's going through to my life or what he's dealt with to my life or how he's leading? How can I apply that to my life? I think that's been huge for me as well.
Absolutely.
Just the curiosity.
I really hate to end this great discussion, but we're getting close to our ending time.
No way. We're just getting warmed up.
You had a question for me earlier. It was about law enforcement and wanted me to give a story. Do you remember what it was? Because I hate to cut that off.
A question about law
You
enforcement?
had asked that you had seen him. You knew that
You
he
wanted
had
me to
seen
apply
some
something
people
to law enforcement.
at the bottom of their, at rock bottom and coming back from rock bottom.
Yes.
Could you give an example for
Yes.
that?
That's
Coming
it.
back from rock bottom, absolutely. I have actually I've been very fortunate to encounter a couple of people over my career that lost everything, had multiple houses, careers, cars, lost everything, living on the streets in a tent. And a couple of them I know actually never went back for that, what we consider success in the material realm.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention the guy's name because this isn't about the person himself, and I would hate to ever embarrass him, but he didn't need that stuff anymore. He'd already lived that life. He actually lived in a tent, but was one of the most kind-hearted, gracious, and honestly giving people that I knew. Looked like on the outside by the world standards he didn't have a lot, but he really did. And because he genuinely cared about people. And then I've seen some other ones that have been in that situation that really just pulled their boots up, didn't make excuses, didn't make anything else, and then re-achieved the American dream, did go back into living in a house or whatever.
Awesome.
And sometimes it was for a substance abuse issue. Sometimes it was just circumstances, made a bad business decision, you run out of this or whatever. But they really pulled themselves back up. I, again, will not mention the guy's name because I don't have permission to tell his story and identify him, but I know a particular individual. It's a good friend of mine, business owner here in Rome, prominent guy. He's owned 7 or 8 of the same style of company, and none of them were successful. Several of them had early success, but the life choices he made, lost his business over and over, and now he owns one of the most successful companies. He's extremely well off, and he runs several nonprofits in the area.
Oh, wow.
Phenomenal guy, and it's all about, number one, not making excuses, right?
Yeah,
Owning your
exactly.
mistakes,
Yeah.
for sure. Moving past those, but not accepting that I've got to be here forever. It's getting back on the horse and getting back after it.
So it's not who you are, it's who you're becoming.
100%.
I like that.
You're not defined by the circumstances that happen to you. Everybody has trauma.
Yes.
Everybody has something.
Yes.
It's how you respond to that
That's right.
that really defines who you are.
Guys, it's been great having y'all on this show with us. We're reaching our closing time limit. Do y'all have anything else you would like to add?
I would say, number one, have grace with yourself. Eric made a great point earlier talking about sports, relating it back to that. There is no such thing as a perfect game. Even when we say a pitcher threw a perfect game, he threw balls during that game. Something happened that wasn't perfect, and those are so rare anyway. Have grace. You're going to make mistakes. Failing forward is not failing. It is part of life. It's how we learn. So number one, have grace. Number two, have goals. Set your goals, have goals, be energetic, be excited, and have an eye on the big picture for sure, but don't get bogged down by the big picture. Set yourself manageable goals that you can check off.
I love it. Everything Kevin said. No, but I will say this: WIN, be willing to invest now. Invest in yourself now. Everything that you're doing is an investment into yourself now, and you'll see yourself win.
I love it.
Thank you for coming on Mental Momentum today. It's been a pleasure having both of y'all.
Thank you.